Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the July 11th, 2024 meeting of the Penfield Planning Board. We'll begin the meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. I see we have people from all ages, which is great. We don't normally get people under, what would you think, 30 here? So it's great. Doug, would you please call the roll?
All right. Hetzke.
Hetzke here.
Aken.
Aken here.
Kanauer.
Kanauer here.
Tydings.
Tydings here.
O'Connor.
O'Connor here.
Prinzing.
Prinzing here.
Sangster here.
Okay, we have minutes from our last meeting, June 13th. Hopefully everybody's had an opportunity to review them. Can I entertain a motion?
Tydings, a motion to approve.
I'll
I'll-
second.
All right. Tydings and
She's
Aken.
faster.
I know.
Hetzke.
Hetzke, aye.
Aken.
Aken, aye.
Kanauer.
Kanauer, aye.
Tydings.
Tydings, aye.
Okay, so just for those of you who aren't used to coming to planning board meetings in Penfield, our process typically between 6:30 and 7 is a work session where we go through tabled items and action items, and then at 7 we begin the public hearing portion of the meeting. If we get through all of our tabled items for the last, I don't know how many years, we have moved straight into the public hearing so that there's not a delay. If we don't get through all the tabled items by 7, we stop the work session, begin the public hearing, and then afterwards go back to the tabled items. Tonight, we only have one item, so I will imagine that we'll be moving into the public hearing portion of the evening very soon. And just some, well, I'll mention all that once we get through our tabled items. So, Doug?
Okay, so I've only got one administrative item for you guys tonight. It's a land transfer on Jackson Road. So two neighbors are looking to swap approximately, what was that? 4,000 square feet of land. It'll reduce the side, or increase the side setback on one property. They'd gain it back on the rear of the property. There's no net change in the size of the property.
So, the south portion and the east portion,
Yep.
they're just swapping?
So the neighbor is giving up some land to the south and gaining some land to the east. Gives them a little bit bigger backyard, reduced side yard.
Okay. Any concerns with the engineering department, or
No.
anybody on the board have a concern
Nope.
with this?
Nope.
Any other things we need to know about this?
Nope, it's a type 2 action, and all it requires is a simple vote of the board.
Okay, somebody want to move it?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All right, we got Kanauer, Aken. Hetzke,
Hetzke, aye.
Aken,
Aken, aye.
Kanauer,
Kanauer, aye.
Tydings.
Tydings, aye.
Okay. So just like I said 2 minutes ago, we'll move right into the public hearing portion of our evening as soon as we get our tabled items taken care of. That moment is now. So we have on our agenda this evening a sketch plan and 2 preliminary and finals. There's a difference between these types of applications. A sketch plan is an informal concept presentation from an applicant or someone who has an idea about developing a piece of property in some way, shape, or form. That being said, there won't be as much detail in that type of plan, because what they're interested in is getting feedback from the board, from all the different departments in town, and from the neighbors and the public at large, so that they can determine whether it's something that they want to pursue and invest the money and the engineering and the drawings and the plans, or if they want to do something different or walk away. So our first item is a sketch plan. In terms of housekeeping, there are slips of paper. If you wish to speak, it would be great if you could fill out one of these and put it, they're empty ones in the one side of that blue bin by the door. And if you could fill one out with the information it requests and put it in probably the other side of the blue bin, Doug will be continuing to monitor that throughout the meeting. And you're not required to do that. So if we get through, I typically ask the people who filled these out first to come up and speak. And then after that, if you just raise your hand, I'll call you as I see you. Once you're called up, go to the empty table and, have a seat and speak into the microphone so that the millions of people who watch us around the world, we happen to be streaming on Apple TV, Roku, all sorts of.
1303 on Spectrum.
Yeah. And I hear that we get way better ratings than the zoning board. So please talk into the microphone and address your comments to the board. Give us your name and address, and then we'd like to hear what you have to say. So with that, Doug, if you could please read the first application.
All right. BME Associates, 10 Liftbridge Lane East, Fairport, New York, 14450. On behalf of Willow Pond Ventures, LLC, requests an informal discussion before the board with a proposed modification of the existing Willow Pond Planned Development site plan to allow the development of 84 apartment units within 2 buildings to be located at 47 Willow Pond Way. The properties now are formally owned by Willow Pond Ventures, LLC, and zoned Planned Development District, PD. Application 24P-0012, SBL 139.08-2-1.21.
Okay, floor is yours. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you all for being here and taking the time to take a look at our application and have this meeting. I'm here with Mike Bogajewski from BME Associates, our site design engineer. And in the back of the room is Mr. Steve DiMarzo, the owner of Mark IV Enterprises and the owner of this property. I'm Chris Nadler, General Counsel for Mark IV, and we're very happy to be here to discuss what is really the last piece of the Willow Pond development that was taken over when it was in trouble in the 1970s by Steve's father, Anthony DiMarzo, who built many of the houses and many of the apartment complex, Willow Pond Apartments, the office buildings adjacent to this and across the street from this, and of course the Legacy Senior Living Facility. What I'd like to talk about tonight is go over the project, have Mike tell you about the technical details, and then get your feedback and the feedback from the public. Obviously, this is, as you said, just a sketch meeting to get that feedback, answer questions, and find out what the best way to proceed is. We will be performing, we have already retained a traffic engineer to do a trip distribution and trip generation study for the property. Indications so far look good, but we're looking forward to going through the process with you and with our neighbors. As you know, this is a PD zoning district. In 2002, the planning board and the town board approved the project for 2 office buildings, which exist now, and a 150-unit assisted living facility. The shape of that facility, I don't know if you have that plan, looked a little bit like a spaceship. Times have changed, and that's not the market anymore. Penfield is in need of more housing. What we're proposing here, instead of the 150-unit senior living facility, is 2 42-unit apartment buildings for a total of 84 units. These will be market rate apartments. They'll be high-end. Construction will be high-quality materials like brick, wood siding, and metal panels. Generally, on a facility complex like this, our target demographic is what we call DINKs, dual income, no children. These are people who have the money to afford the rental rates we'll be charging and don't want the hassle of maintaining a home of their own. In most cases, the rents will be more than most people pay for their mortgage each month. We'll have a high level of amenities, and these will be very nice units. We'll have similar setbacks to the 150-unit assisted living facility, similar lot coverage, similar height. We have added a significant amount of buffering between the edge of the parking lot and the residential structures, each of which, by the way, will be over 140 feet away from the building, as well as fencing along that south portion to block any headlights. I'll turn it over to Mike Bogoszewski to go over the technical details of the project, and then we'll look for your feedback and input and insight.
Evening. I'll kind of go over the layout and just conceptually what we're thinking so far, just stormwater utility-wise and access and parking and stuff. For the layout of the site, like Chris mentioned, the property itself is 4.5 acres. The two buildings have been clustered towards the middle of the site just in order to maximize, the setbacks from 441 and the office buildings east and west, but also from the residential to the south. That allows us to at least provide some buffering and landscaping and, as Chris mentioned, proposed fencing along the neighboring border property lines to the residential properties there. The fronts of the buildings basically face the center. They face each other. In case you're wondering the kind of the layout orientation of the buildings, I know some of the architectural renderings, the conceptual renderings, were submitted with the sketch plan application. The renderings show the proposed buildings at the tallest points are to be 40 feet. That will be a modification with the PD that'll be requested through that modification process. And if you look at the elevations, those 40-foot heights are kind of just on the front end side of the building, which would be in the center portion of the site. And then the other portions, the building kind of steps there. As you can see, the other portions of the building are 34 and 35 feet. Parking, we are proposing to meet a parking ratio of 2 parking spaces per unit. That's between the surface parking, and then each of the buildings does have indoor garage units on the ends of the buildings, the north and south sides. We're proposing 186 parking spaces currently on the concept plan, and that includes the 20 garage spaces that are shown there. Access will be from Willow Pond Way, with just the private entrance into the development. Utility-wise, fairly straightforward. Water and sanitary services will be extended from the right-of-way from Willow Pond into the site. Stormwater-wise, drainage-wise, conceptually, we're kind of sticking to actually what was roughly done with the previous site plan, and keeping the stormwater in kind of that same area, just because that's the lowest point of the site. The property itself sits a little bit below 441 and then generally drains north to south, so to speak. So basically, all that drainage is going towards Willow Pond, so it'll get picked up in a stormwater management facility and then tied into the storm sewer systems from there. And as I had mentioned, grade-wise, the site does sit below 441. I think it's around 5 to 10 feet in general, roughly. That's kind of the layout and summary of the concept plan, so to speak. That's really what is proposed so far. So, as I know you guys brought up the architectural rendering concepts also. So tonight we're really looking for any input from the board at this point. This really does initiate that first step in this modification of that PD process, so to speak. So,
Right. Okay, so you're,
looking for any questions. Input.
Okay.
Yep.
all right, thank you for your presentation. I have a couple of questions. What type of, I noticed that and you had mentioned landscape buffering on the west side and on the south side. Seems fairly narrow. What are you looking at, like arborvitae or junipers, or what's the idea for that, or have you not
We obviously haven't gotten.
settled?
That's obviously to come with actual site plan design.
It's important to note the existing vegetation in the backyards along Willow Pond Way will remain, be untouched. So you'll have, what's that, probably 20 feet of vegetative buffer before you get to a row of arborvitaes, for example, and then a fence.
Yep, and then with the concept plan, at least we've shown enough room to be able to do some tree plantings, whether they're a mixture of some of the deciduous stuff or evergreen trees that'll get obviously final designed later, but that's the intent.
How flat is the site today, and how much, will it be overall raised, lowered? What's,
In general, I mean, so the site is sloping a
it's
little bit, but in general, it's
fairly
fairly flat, yeah. So there isn't a need for big cuts and fills to make this site work, so to speak. So you guys are bringing up the topo there, you can see that it does drop off 441, and then it levels out and just kind of slopes gently to the south, so.
right, okay. The pond that you show in the concept drawing, is that proposed as a retention or detention, or don't you know yet?
Both. So
Okay,
So it'll be designed, basically, the default answer is gonna be designed to meet current DEC guidelines, so to speak. So that'll involve some portion of deep pools and standing water with enough of storage capacity to handle the drainage runoff from there and detain it and then release it at a controlled rate into the storm sewer system.
so a portion of it would have water all the time.
Correct.
Any guess as to how big that might be, and ponds that are designed today have pretty shallow entries, right?
So, yeah, it would be shallow graded around the pond itself. And then typically they're 4 to 6 feet deep of a depth of water that provides your treatment
Right,
in your standing water, your maintained water that's in the pond. And then your storage above that is what provides your detention, so to speak, of controlling runoff and then detaining it, and then releasing it through the control outlet structure. Part of that stormwater management design throughout the site will have to include some type of green infrastructure practices. Also, on top of just the pond itself, that's part of the whole DEC guidelines of making sure to provide treatment on top of the quantity controls, so to speak.
okay. Today, basically sheet flows from north to south?
Correct.
And there's no real
Right,
control?
yeah, right now there's no controls, it just sheet flows north to south, yep.
Okay.
There is storm sewer system along Willow Pond currently, obviously, that it drains to, right?
Right. But there's no catch basins on the site, or
Within the
there's
site,
no, nothing was really,
There's no other existing improvements, so to speak, that are there currently. Nope.
okay. And then the garages that you mentioned, I assume that's like a first come, first serve, whoever wants to rent them?
Yes, they would be an additional rental. The layout is cool, in my opinion. There's, in the center, facing inward of each building, is a lobby, a central lobby, where residents will enter. But then the garages connect to an interior hallway that goes down the middle of each building. So you can walk out of your apartment down the hall and either out the front door or into your garage.
Okay. What about, in today's world, you have Amazon trucks everywhere. Package deliveries like that, how, is there a system put in,
Yes,
or
there's-
proposed to be put in place for
Yes,
those
there's
types
a
of
very
things that-
expensive system that coordinates with Amazon. It's a lockbox or system of lockboxes that go in the lobby of your building, and you get a code texted to you from Amazon saying, hey, I just put this package in box number, 42, and you go punch your code and then retrieve your secured package.
So if there's ever a, big competitor that comes up against Amazon, like Nile or something, would you be able to accommodate that?
I believe the systems we use accommodate both. I don't think they are
It's not,
directly by Amazon. I'm not certain that that's 100% true for our current systems. I'm certain that it will be by the time we're putting this in.
right, because like FedEx and UPS and
Yeah, they all,
Postal Service,
yeah.
all deliver packages.
yeah, there must be some way. I'm not, quite frankly,
Okay.
that familiar with
I
it.
don't mean
But
to
it's a
put you
good
on the
question.
spot, I was just somewhat curious about
Yeah.
that myself.
Now I'm curious about it.
Okay. Questions from the board?
So, I'm surprised you didn't ask, is there planned lighting in the parking lot area?
There would be some parking lighting to just provide illumination for the parking areas itself. Obviously, intent would be to make sure it's contained within the site, dark sky compliant, making sure it's meeting all town codes.
Okay.
Are the garages, I'm assuming they're one-car garages?
Yeah, single car, yep, correct.
Mike, anything about sidewalks?
Yeah, and maybe I didn't touch on it in my just initial presentation. We show some initial sidewalks at the entrances of the buildings, but there is an opportunity to connect, and I think it was noted in our letter of intent, to connect a sidewalk to, and you can see it on the aerial photograph there, there's an existing sidewalk that ends just before where the entrance would be proposed. That provides a good spot for sidewalks connections for the proposed development.
And that sidewalk there would be extended over at least to the west end portion of the property, right?
I believe that could be.
We could do that if you wanted.
Yeah.
That's going to be, I'm sure,
A-
a town
a
code.
concern, okay.
To have sidewalks on new developments unless you get a waiver from the town board.
Understood.
And then that sidewalk system attaches to Wegmans and,
Yeah, that sidewalk
Ultimately.
goes to the east and then north along basically the main Willow Pond entrance road and then out to 441, which does have existing sidewalks along it.
right.
And there's a cut-through to Wegmans that's somewhere in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe
Yeah, right
through
to
the
the
apartment
front.
complex, there's a cut-through, yeah.
Okay. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
Did
that's
you
all
have?
right. Good for now.
Bob?
So I just waited one other, so once they come out of the new apartments, they would come out and then go out Willow Pond Way to 441?
Yeah, correct.
Yes.
And then either go
Then
to
you could go
Wegmans
left or right. You
left
could,
or
you
right
could
on-
go over east to Wegmans. You could go south along Willow Pond. It does extend to the south too. Basically from there, it's connecting to the network, the existing sidewalk network.
Preliminary discussions with our traffic engineer indicate that most will go out to the light. That's what he indicated when we were discussing with him, but we'll obviously provide you with the data to show that.
Okay.
I'm good, thanks.
Bob, questions?
For residents' trash, what's the plan for storage, and then what happens on pickup day?
Internal toters will be somewhere in the building. And our on-site maintenance staff will haul them out to the curb for however many days pickup is required. For complexes, it'd be this size, it'd probably be once a week. And the trash service would come around, my guess is around the back on the 441 side, and empty the toters. And then our maintenance staff would put the toters back in the trash room.
Okay, is there a specific area identified for the toters waiting pickup?
No, not at this point.
Okay.
We don't have that yet.
Okay,
Obviously, site plans would show that.
Not currently. That's something we could, obviously, with input from the board, consider with
Okay.
site plans, yeah.
and I see in your application documentation, you mentioned charging stations, which is
Absolutely.
a good idea. Are you going to offer at least the capability for people that use the garages to charge within the garage?
Yes, is the
Okay.
answer to that. I think it's going, by the time we build this, I think it's going to be required, but also we'll wire them in, and if there's enough demand, then yes.
I believe it's becoming a requirement with new building stuff,
Yeah.
but I don't know those details.
Yeah, but even if not, we're wiring for them in all garages.
Okay,
Okay, and you're familiar, we haven't had a PD proposal in 20-something years, since the,
Since this one?
yeah, since the nursing home or the assisted living facility came in. And this being a sketch, we look at the site plan portion. We're not really looking at use. That's a town board decision, because the town board has the ultimate jurisdiction over the PD district. So you're looking forward to a pretty involved process. The assisted living facility obviously could be built tomorrow,
Understood.
because that's all been approved.
Correct.
Changing it over to a different use is going to require us, from a site plan standpoint, and the town board from a use and density standpoint.
Understood. Obviously, we've already been in discussions with town staff to kind of map out that process. We understand that the request is going to have to get made to the town board, obviously, to modify that PD current zoning district that was already established for the previous site plan that's approved currently. So we understand that there's going to have to be the planning board input and then also the town board process for modifying the PD district.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions from the board at this point?
Not this way.
Nope.
Okay. At this point, I would like to open it up for public participation. And if you are here, we already talked about these cool little slips of paper. And if you're not here, you can still participate. If you're in, I don't know, Hong Kong watching or something, you can call in at 585-340-8771, or you can make an electronic comment online by going to the Penfield website. It's penfield.org, and there should be a link to this meeting on the front page of the website, and you can submit an electronic copy or an electronic comment that way. So I'll give the phone number one more time. It's 585-340-8771. And I will begin going through the list of people. And if, once I call your name, and please forgive me if I butcher your last name or your first name. Please forgive me. And feel free to correct me. But once I call your name, please come up to one of these two chairs, speak into the microphone, give us your name and address for the record, and then love to hear your comments. And first person is Patricia Johns. Patricia?
Didn't have any trouble with that name, did you?
Thankfully, no. I appreciate it.
My name is Patricia Johns. I live at 39 Hillrise Drive. I'm about a quarter of a mile down the road west of Willow Pond project, I guess you'd call it. I am here because I am concerned about my life and the people who live in the area. Number one, we can't get across the street until we walk back toward Wegmans where there's a light to cross 441. The next crossing is about another half, 3/4 of a mile down to Baird Road. So that's concern number one. Number two is my concern about my life. When I'm driving, I live in Penfield Gardens, and when we come out to try and get across or into the flow of traffic on 441, a left-hand turn is impossible at certain times of the day. You just simply cannot get out.
Like Meadowview, right?
A right-hand turn is getting to be increasingly impossible. You take your life in your hands, and the other day, I managed to work my way into traffic, and all of a sudden, there's a white Mercedes coming at me, which came onto 441 at a very high rate of speed because he couldn't get out either, so he jumped for it, and I was almost impaled on a Mercedes car insignia. It's terrible. It's just terrible. As you continue to add on to development of Penfield, not to mention what has occurred down at the corner of Atlantic Avenue and 250, as you continue to add more and more cars, I don't know how you're going to control traffic. I just don't. They're scared out there, and we're scared trying to get in and out. So I implore you, please try and not add so much traffic to an already very terrible situation. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have is it David Roeder.
Hi, my name's Dave Roeder. I live at 12 Care Court. We're right up behind the Legacy Apartments, so we're very familiar with the area. A couple weeks ago, my street, Sanders Farm, and a little bit of Willow Pond Way all received a yellow postcard notifying of the ideas here, the concepts. But we realized that, I called the town, Penfield, and we realized that all of Willow Pond, all the other cul-de-sacs, Wickham Way, Devonshire, nobody else received the postcard. Nobody knew about this. So what you're seeing here is just the people in the immediate general vicinity, right in that little bottlenecked area. Seems like you folks are very open to the concept, but I will assure you that anybody in this area is adamantly 100% opposed and want the whole thing withdrawn. We view this as a complete and utter destruction of the neighborhood. So, traffic issues, noise issues, my folks used to live in Penfield Gardens, the previous speaker, absolutely true. You cannot drive out of Brentwood. If so, you're talking about 180 parking lots, 180 cars, I guess, people coming 2, 3, 4 times a day. 1,000 cars additional coming in and out of 441. Your opposition isn't just going to come from the people in this neighborhood. A couple of the neighbors decided to make copies of the postcards because they weren't adequately distributed throughout the entire complex. You know, this is Jimmy Carter's thing, back to the planned development. Everything's a community, but most of the community was excluded from being notified of what happened or what's planned on. So we took postcards and we gave them to people in New Wickham and Devonshire, and the people are appalled. I personally spoke to 44 people. Every one of them is 100% opposed to the project in any way, shape, and form. The developers will tell you it was previously a senior facility approved. Okay, fine. It was 150 units. Well, the 150 units is 150, senior citizens. 84 people times dinks, yuppies, wherever you're going to find 84 yuppies that don't want kids in Penfield that are going to move here, whatever. That's still the same number of people. It's still 160 people. The seniors don't drive. They're not going to drive down New Wickham at 60 miles an hour. I don't know about these folks, but more likely we're going to have a lot more traffic and a lot more congestion. They're going to tell you that, a senior facility is a problem because there's ambulances and that there's food truck deliveries and things of that nature. I back up to Legacy. It's a beautiful property. We fought it. We're going to fight this one even harder. But the Legacy is a nice property. And I've never once been bothered by an ambulance. I've never once been bothered by a food delivery truck whatsoever. But hundreds of cars coming and going at the end of the street. This is where the bus stops are for little kids. There's accidents there. There's all sorts of stuff going on. It's too small of an area to put in 84 apartments. You can't put in 200 parking spots and another 880 cars in this tiny little area. They talked about how bad it is getting out of Brentwood Drive to turn onto 441, and it is impossible. I'd sit there for 15 minutes trying to turn left. My folks would come visit me on Caribou. I'd beg my old dad to drive where the traffic light is to get home, because if you go out of Sanders Farm onto 441, it's just as bad. You can't get out. It's absolutely impossible. I mean, we're just going to see massive. Basically, the way Wickham Farms and Devonshire are right now, people cut through from 441 and they cut through. It's like a highway. This is going to even make that even worse. That stretch of Caribou Court, people fly up and down that road in front of the Legacy, out of control traffic just all day. And I mean, this is going to obviously add to the problem. I mean, for senior citizens, they're not driving that fast and they're not driving that often. It seems like the planning board is fairly open to this based on the questions. It's like asking somebody what's your favorite ice cream. I mean, these are very softball questions. We delivered copies of the yellow card to over 300 residents in the neighborhood, myself and 3 and 4 other neighbors, all over the place. I personally talked to 41 people, and each and every person is completely appalled by the concept of this much traffic. So the voters and the residents are 100% opposed to this in every way, shape, and form.
Okay.
I don't see how the thing can be originally, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's, your points are well taken, and the response I guess I have for your comment about softball questions, we as a board, it's not our responsibility or our purview. We can't legally say no apartments, no nursing home, we're not the board that determines the use or the density
Okay,
in this particular, it was zoned as a planned unit development, and a change in that is the town board decision. We're here to look at the site plan. So, okay, the questions that we are asking, drainage and traffic and sidewalks and things like that, so that if there is a development, how do we keep water from, flowing onto the neighbors?
Mosquitoes.
Like,
Yeah.
so those kinds of things are what is our end of this.
I understand.
Okay.
So thank you for explaining that.
So-
It just seemed to me that we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves when 99 out of 100 neighbors are going to be completely 100% against it. The voters and the taxpayers don't want this in any way, shape, or form. Going back to the planned urban development, this is the Carter administration. I mean, I've been here 33 years or something like that, right? And many of my neighbors have too. So we've seen like the original thing back, the 70s, even before I was there, And I think, that was originally Forever Wild area. And then
No,
somehow.
no, it wasn't.
Okay, fine. But then when they put it as a senior facility, right? And now all of a sudden, they want to do apartments, so. Going back to even if it wasn't Forever Wild, the nature, I mean, this is a big nature habitat. The deer come from, and the fox, and the raccoons, and everything. I see them through my backyard every night. They migrate from the walking trails at the end of all the cul-de-sacs to this area where they eat the apples, these neighbors tell me. In this area, there's marshland. There's water and reeds and everything like that. And I'm not an expert, but I think some of this is perfected by environmental law, migratory birds. There's also, just like in Harris Wetland Park, there's red-headed woodpeckers that reside in there. They're in there all the time. The neighbors all tell me about that. That's a protected species. So they're talking about a traffic study. Isn't there some kind of environmental impact study and send it to the Department of Environment and Conservation if there's, species that live in there that are protected animals? So, I mean, it's not flat. I mean, it's a big hill that comes between the 441, there's the accountant office, there's the nail salon, right behind that, there's a big hill, and there's all marshes in there. And, that comes with the migratory birds and stuff there. So I don't know what the angle is to prevent this, but I will tell you, 3 or 4 other folks here, we made copies of those yellow cards, and it's a planned urban development. It's the whole community. The whole community was not informed. We attempted to inform some of the people. I have 41 people, and every single one of them is just, oh, that's what that sign's for. That's what that review process
So
is. Just
I also kind of want to address that, and I'm going to call on the staff to correct me if I get some things wrong with this. So under New York state law, a board such as the planning board or the zoning board or the town board, if there's a public hearing, we're required to post a legal notice, I think 2 weeks or 30 days,
A minimum of 10 days.
10 days in advance of the public hearing.
Okay.
In the publication of record. So it's like the newspaper.
right.
Okay, in 1975, that was great. Everybody read the newspaper. Not many people read the newspaper anymore. But I don't believe that postcards are required by law. Penfield has a policy of a certain radius beyond the subject application. 400 feet?
It starts at 500, goes up to 2,500 feet, depending on the size of the property.
So there has to be some, if you think about your taxes going to a postcard for every single development, if we sent something to every resident in the town, our tax money would be, you would complain about it if it was up somewhere else and they're complaining about paying for stuff in your, you know what I mean? It's like we have to have some sort of,
We don't mind the $1,000 being spent
So-
to protect the neighborhood.
in addition, we put the signs up. We post it on the website. There's, it may not be perfect, but I can assure you that nobody in the town, nobody on any board, we're all pretty much volunteers, is doing anything on purpose for people to not know.
I understand. When the developers come in, they tell us, though, that this was a planned urban development, and this was, this whole community, and the driveways are short, so you know your neighbors, and there's senior in this whole community. So I understand your point. My point is, though, only a small portion of that community was notified. And if they're going to talk and tell us it's a PUD, and that's what they're going on, then the whole community should be notified, in my opinion. I understand what you're saying, too, but maybe they should pay for it. But anyways, make a long story short.
Yeah, I mean, we can go around and around.
Yeah, we could go in circles, which there's no point, there's other speakers, but I think we're gonna find a lot of people that are, what does it take to prevent a project like this from moving forward? Do you need, where everybody signs something and petitions? I mean, what is it that halts something like this in its tracks? Because we'd all like it withdrawn immediately.
Well, there's, ultimately, it most likely will come down to a decision on whether the town board determines that the change in use is appropriate, and then the density.
So town board
That's
is
proposed.
planning board, or the town board changes
The town board approves that.
Town board, and when's the meeting with the town board, and
Well,
when,
this is just a sketch plan.
Yeah.
So,
So-
just to gather information, and so, after this meeting, if they choose to pursue something, they'll more than likely try to set up a meeting, a similar type meeting with the town board.
okay,
And then the process works as though if it becomes an official application, the planning board would do preliminary review for the site plan. And if that's approved, site plan-wise, then it goes to the town board for them to look at the use and the density.
all right.
And
So,
then it would come back to the planning board for final review based on what the town board said.
so the next step then is what? Up to them to respond to the comments from
Correct.
this meeting?
Correct.
Modify their plans, cancel their plans, or say
Correct.
we're not gonna make any modifications? And
Correct.
then there's another meeting in front of the town board.
Correct. Most likely,
Pretty
yes,
much.
that's the way it would go.
All right, wonderful. Okay, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you.
Sure. Thank you.
Everything out. All right, have a great day.
Okay, this one I think I'm going to butcher. Laura? Is it? Yeah, 10? Okay. Yes, come on up.
My name is Laura Ottavino. I live at 10 Empress Court. I've been a resident of Willow Pond for 45 years. And I sat across from Tony DiMarzo. I was one of the first houses built on Empress Court. And he emphatically told me to my face that the areas that were not going to be developed, where the legacy is, where the two office buildings were. My question to the planning board is, how far back do you go with the plans from this development? The very first original plan for this development.
When you ask a question, I'm not sure I totally understand the
Plans that-
question.
When I was there, okay, they showed me a plan,
Mm-hmm.
and they said, this, and I asked the questions, this would be Forever Wild, this would be Forever Wild, this would be forever wild. These properties that are being developed now. I sat there with Tony DiMarzo, and he emphatically told me that. So I want to know if there's a plan that I saw back in the 70s, 79, that had that design in it, okay? Nobody seems to know where that is. But that's what I was told to my face from Tony DiMarzo, okay?
Yeah, I'm writing, I'm not ignoring you, I'm
Okay.
writing down
The
notes.
point I'm bringing up is, I've seen the development. When they first came in for the nursing home, or the independent living, they wanted to make a 4-story tower, okay? That was not in the aesthetics of the planned community, okay? So we got that to be in the aesthetics of the plan of the Willow Pond. These buildings here, okay, I don't think they fit in, that's number one. They're too modern. They need to fit in with the, if we're going to have this, they need to fit in with the aesthetics of the houses. You've got these, you know, older homes, then you're going to put in this modern whatever. It just doesn't fit in. The second thing is, I was very instrumental in getting the stop signs into Willow Pond from Sanders Farm, okay? We have the stop sign that comes in at the edge, and then we have one coming going east. No one stops at them. No one. So they just go right over. There are little kids on bikes, very dangerous. You cannot walk your dog. There's only one area where there's sidewalks, okay? You know, when you're walking your animals or your kids on bikes, there's no, people are racing down Willow Pond like it's a racetrack, okay? You know, I fought for the stop signs, nobody even cares. What I'd like to see at the end of this community is they stop. There's got to be a stop sign. There's no stop signs along when they're coming in and out of these buildings. They're just, you know, if they don't see anything, they're barreling out. They don't look either way. I mean, we're coming around the corner.
You're talking about like the entrance to the office buildings and
Yep.
leaving those parking lots?
Yeah, we
Okay.
need to have some control in the traffic. And by the way, when you come out, okay, when you come in from 441, there is so much traffic you can't even get out at the end of the corner. You have the apartment buildings right across, so you got people coming this way, and you got people coming this way. It's a blind corner, too. They have a big electrical box there that you can't even see around. You have to edge out. And then the people from 441 come barreling around that corner. You're ready to go out, and they're slamming. Traffic is impossible. Some days it's so bad that I can't, well, I use a light now, but before that, we had no control of the traffic. And the 441 from both ends, like they said, it's just impossible to get around. So you know, I would like to see in there a little speed bump there, because that would slow people down coming.
Yeah, I actually wrote that down,
What?
the speed hump
Oh, yeah.
idea.
Because you can't slow the traffic down on Willow Pond. Either they're coming this way or they're coming around the bend. And the other thing is, at Sanders Farm, that should be a one-way street. They should not be able, I mean, they shouldn't be able, using that Sanders Farm to turn left on 441. That is a death trap. People should be only coming in, the traffic flow that way. Because it's too
Yeah,
powerful.
I understand what you're saying, and I don't, the challenge with that,
That's a state road, I know.
well, there's that, but it's also, you know, there's a right in, right out of Panorama Plaza onto Panorama Trail. I see people ignoring that all the time. Also, when you're heading south, you know, down the hill on Old Penfield Road or Penfield Road, past Allen's Creek, there's a right out, only out of Allen's Creek. I see people, you know, pulling in, turning left. I mean, just people ignore it
I know.
all the time.
I know, but you're putting more traffic into this small little area, and people are coming around, you know, it's a bend. And
Yeah.
they're ripping around there, so you got to do something to slow it down. Because if we're having people coming in and out of there regularly, I'm going to get nailed. But the worst part is trying to get out to the light where we have in Willow Pond. It's very, very hard to get out. You got people coming this way from the apartments, this way. And there's nothing there to, you know.
Okay.
But, and the other thing is that all the extra cars, I mean, it's going to be, we have a light there, and then we have a light at Wegmans. It's always jammed. I mean, coming out of our development, sometimes you can't get because the cars are backed up. The flow of traffic on 441 coming, and us coming out of Willow Pond, it's just not, it's not coordinated right. You know, we can't even make a right out of there, just like they're doing down there at Penfield Gardens. Traffic's going to be a very big issue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
By the way, one other thing, is I live next door to my daughter on Anchor's Court.
Stacy?
Yes, and she got a yellow thing, and I was wondering why. I didn't get a yellow little thing, and I live really close, that's the closest street. I mean, it was very.
East of you?
What?
She east of you?
West.
We're right next door. Right next door to you. I mean, there's about.
From the
It-
property line, is my guess. And it's
Yeah. Okay, sir, if you don't mind me going through the,
Could we ask the speaker to either move closer to the mics?
oh,
Yes,
Or pull the mic down, because
yes, I will do that. Okay, next person is
Wes, we
Stacy.
bumped the volume pitch too.
Come on up and make sure you talk into the microphone.
Pretty loud. I'll be pretty loud. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, can everybody hear me? Test. Okay. So, thank you. You're probably shocked that I am here, but I'm 52, and I have lived in Willow Pond for on and off for 45 years. I moved back to Penfield, and I bought the house next to my parents because I wanted to live there, and as my parents are aging, help them out. So it was a very convenient thing for me. So as a kid, I enjoyed living in Willow Pond and riding my bike all around there. And so it's sad for me to see the last bit of land being taken away. And there's a lot of kids in the neighborhood, and that just makes me sad. But the biggest reason why I'm here, and not to get any pity, but back in the early 90s, I don't know if anybody here remembers that a guy came out of Penfield Tavern very drunk, hit my car, and almost killed me, and drove through the optical place. Does anybody remember that years ago? Okay, well, that was me. And if you would have hit me a couple inches more, I would not be here to speak today. Don't want pity about it. Just want to let you know that over the years, I've seen the traffic get so incredibly bad. I've seen my mom almost get in accidents. I live right behind the Legacy. I don't have a problem with the Legacy. I actually love the residents that live there. I walk with little Virginia, who's 102. And I'm here to speak for them because they didn't sign up to move there to get a bunch of apartments across the street from them. I know a lot of parents, family members at the Legacy that are going to be concerned about this, very concerned about this. I have a little dog, Lulu. Probably people here have seen me walking her. I have almost gotten killed with Lulu a couple times. No exaggeration. When you come, like my mom was talking about 441 and Willow Pond Way, and I used to live in the townhouses 82 Camberley Place, right by that Wickham, right we're talking about. It is a racetrack back there. Nobody stops. I've had to pull my dog numerous times. I mean, you guys get the point of this, right? It's really, really bad. And I would be willing to donate my time and review with these traffic engineers because I almost got killed because traffic engineers haven't listened over the years. The irony of this story is the house that I live in now, the kid, Kevin Tamburini, got T-boned pulling out of Sanders Farm Way, and he almost lost his life, and I live in the house there. So this is very personal to me. Sanders Farm Drive, I 100%, me and my mom have been saying for years, if they made that a one-way road where you can only turn right to come off Penfield Road and not give you an opportunity to turn left, that's gonna help the traffic flow across the street from Penfield Gardens there. That's gonna significantly help. And you have Hilltop Drive. I mean, there's a lot of people pulling out into a small space. I have a daughter who's driving now. She's almost gotten in an accident there. I mean, this is really, really serious. So I'm just here to say to the planning board, please just consider these things, okay? I'm not worried about the plants. I'm not worried about the water. I am worried about the utilities, and then I want to see these maps of how they're going to match up to our sewers, our utility, all this stuff. There's a lot of people in that populated area. But I really worry about a lot of elderly people walk around the Legacy. They walk around those streets. They go over there and they do feed the little deer. They do whatever. And populating that area, and I worry about safety. There's been a tremendous amount of break-ins in our area. There is, like I said, we don't have sidewalks in Willow Pond. There's a very small area that has sidewalks where if the planning board wants to allow more properties there, then I want the planning board to review sidewalks and safety for all of us so that we can live there. There's got to be some form of a compromise here. And I'm not coming here to just say, I don't want your property. I'm coming here to say, if you're going to do this, work with us and listen to us and make sure that we feel safe. I don't feel safe walking my dog. I'm tired of worrying about my car getting broken into. I'm tired of the traffic. And we deserve to live there and be safe. And we're just not. So I'm willing to volunteer hours of my time to look at traffic with you to make sure we're all feeling safe. I want to know what your utility stuff's going to look like. I want to know how it's going to impact me. I mean, I could come with a list, and I will come with a list.
We would like that. We'd like to sit down.
So, let's talk about this and come up with compromises and make sure that the neighbors everyone's going to feel okay. And if we don't have if it comes down to this has to happen, then the planning board has to listen to us to have considerations. That's me. I don't want to come here and complain. I want to come here to bring you some good solutions and resolutions. And I think that looking at the road, looking at stop signs, more lights. I think there needs to be a light in Willow Pond Way right there, we're battling, we're living in a residential area with businesses in there. How is that fair to us and not having a traffic light? And going through, and there's a big cut through. I want the planning board to really look at Willow Pond Way and how it goes by Devonshire and Courtshire and back through that area, all back there. Why is there no lights? It's a heavy, heavy trafficked way. I will stand out there with a video camera and I'll find a way to track the car's speed and I'll bring it back to you and tell you it's extremely dangerous. No exaggeration.
Stoplights or streetlights back there?
We don't have streetlights. We don't have stoplights. We have, and I know you can't control people blazing through there, okay? But you can put lights in there to slow them down. You can put speed bumps in there to slow them down. We are a residential area, and it's bad enough we compete with Wegmans and all that. And then now we got doctor's offices. My dentist is in there. I love the convenience of it, but I don't like going to pull in my dentist's office and people blazing right at me. And the last bit of land that we have there, where's all these deer going to go? I have them in my backyard every night. I have 3 ferns in my back, fawns, whatever you call them, in my backyard. Like, there's nowhere for these animals to go.
You got the 5 acres behind Legacy.
No.
They don't go there?
No.
Okay.
There's not 5 acres. There's barely any room to walk your dog. There really isn't. So I just am saying, like look at it. Really, really look at it and evaluate it. And I'm the first to tell you that if any of my family members personally, if this goes in and there's more traffic gets injured, I'm going to be a force to reckon with. And not in a mean way. It's not a threat, because I've almost had my life taken. No exaggeration. Look in the papers, look me up, do your research. You will see that it was a terrible, terrible car accident.
Thank you. Okay, next we have, is it Barb Vietz? And just as a reminder,
Take out their landscaping that they put in the right of way.
please address your comments to the board and so that we can just try to keep control.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
My name is Barb Beats, and I live at 15 Courtshire Lane.
But we've also tried to
And everything that's been said about this street is correct. It is a,
Oh, can you talk into the microphone more? Follow Stacy's lead.
it's
Thanks.
really a racetrack. I've lived at this townhouse for 24 years, and it's such a nice area back there. But when, like now, I share my driveway with the neighbor, and I back into my driveway because it's too hard to back out onto that street. I mean, the cars are coming and going both ways because they're using it to cut through. And so what I have to do now, I have to pull over, put my blinker on that I want to back in, and there are cars, again, both ways. And I think, if there's an accident between those two cars, is that my fault? Because I'm just trying to get into my driveway. But it really, it's really hard to see that because it's such a nice area. And to have all these other cars coming in, because it's amazing how many cars use it to cut through. Like anybody wanting to go out to 250, they will come. It's just unreal to cut through and then go down Camberley, is it? Whatever, not Camberley, whatever that other road is there. But then they go and turn right onto 250. And it really makes it nice for them, but it makes it
That is
awful
nice
for
for them.
us. And even for me, if I want to go to Target, I don't want to go out that way and try to turn left because that traffic is awful. So I go out Willow Pond and go around and go to the lights so that I know that at least the light, I have it safe. Well, not really, because people run that light all the time. It can be red, but it doesn't matter. They are still running it. And it's all times of the day. And the thought of trying to get onto 441, like when I worked downtown, that was a while ago, but that lineup ready to turn left, I can't imagine how long that line would be in the morning with all these cars. That is just all kinds of little pieces that, and I'd like to know, I mean, that traffic study, I don't know when the last traffic study was done, because it wouldn't show how much has changed in the last 5 years, maybe. So whatever the latest traffic study is, it would be nice to know the update on that. I know you'll
Sure.
have another one, but
Yep.
that's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Wendy Posch?
Okay, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, all
I
right.
can, but you're talking to me. so-
Okay. Paul, can you hear me back there? Okay. Okay, hello, my name's Wendy Roche. My husband and I have lived at 61 Willow Pond Way for 18 years. We have 3 children, ages 15, 6, almost 7, I have to say that, and 2. And this proposed development's quite literally in our backyard. I, along with my neighbors whose properties back up to this project, as well as many others around the Willow Pond neighborhood, have talked at length, and we have significant concerns, as you've heard. First, let me start by saying that I am not against development. When we moved here in 2006, we knew there was a possibility of the woods behind us becoming a second section of the legacy senior living. When we learned that the land was back on the market earlier this year, I thought of the kind of project that might make sense for our neighborhood and for Penfield as a whole. Needless to say, a 3-story buildings housing 84 apartments is not it. Our neighborhood is already home to 3 apartment communities: Willow Pond Apartments, Crown Oak, and the former Legacy, now Addison at Willow Pond. And we are the only neighborhood in Penfield attached to 3 office complexes. As you've heard, the short, curvy stretch of Willow Pond to Sanders Farm has had significant speed issues over the years, as has all of the Willow Pond Loop. Back in 2013, I also petitioned the town on behalf of several families in our neighborhood for speed control measures. Back then, I only had 1 child, and it wasn't safe for him or any of our other neighborhood kids to ride bikes or really be near the road. Many times I, along with other neighbors, took matters into our own hands, stepping into the road to stop and scold drivers going too fast. This was a regular occurrence in the mornings and afternoons as we stood with our children at the bus stop. I actually requested that the bus stop be moved from my driveway on Willow Pond to Carob Court because it was not safe for the kids to stand there and wait for the bus. Over the years, we've resorted to parking our cars in the street, so cars are forced to slow down so they don't hit our vehicles, and we put movable slow down signs in the road. So when our kids are outside, we can try and keep them safe. In 2015, after a serious accident at the corner of Willow Pond and Sanders Farm, where a car coming from the office complex right where this development is proposed, driving upwards of 50 miles an hour, slammed into a tree, we were finally successful in getting that intersection to become a three-way stop. Not that vehicles actually stop there now, but they slow down a little bit and then speed up as they head toward the Willow Pond Apartments, toward the intersection, or toward the intersection where the traffic light is. We were then successful in getting a pedestrian crossing sign and painted road lines from the Willow Pond Way to Crown Oak, where many people walk to Wegmans or other businesses in the plaza after a woman was hit trying to cross the road. I'll use this opportunity to remind the town that the road lines were never repainted after the oil and stone project a few years ago, but it doesn't really matter because nobody stops for pedestrians anyhow. That straight stretch of road from Willow Pond to the top of the Devonshire Hill is a speedway. It's especially dangerous for parents like myself who are trying to cross with young children and for residents of the senior living community who walk our neighborhood regularly. Traffic and careless drivers has been an ongoing battle that continues today. Most recently, our fourth grade neighbor Alex missed being hit as he got off the school bus by a driver paying no attention to the bus's flashing lights or the sound of the horn. The video of this incident is actually used by the transportation department to show how this bus driver likely saved this boy's life. During several transportation committee meetings that my neighbors and I attended about 10 years ago to address the speeding and traffic concerns, we were told our main problem was not people who owned homes in our neighborhood, but those who rented. We were told they did not have a sense of community or belonging, many of them young, not caring or identifying with the homeowners, families, and community. Considering from what we've heard tonight, the targeted renters here are in line with what I've described. When dinks don't have kids, they don't really understand what it's like to be parents and be a family in this community. The other big traffic problem is because people use Sanders Farm as a cut-through to get to the business development and the senior living community at the end of my street versus going up to the light on 441. We found out that smartphone navigation apps actually direct drivers to go down Sanders Farm to get to these places. There's no way to fix that, as they are designated to not allow you to pass your destination. As this project will have no egress onto 441, this will mean significant traffic increase on our small stretch of road. I should also mention, as Barb said, the influx of traffic from Route 250 to the condos, the Windsor Square and Camberley Place neighborhoods, they cut through there to avoid the 250-441 intersection. So when we found out about the plans for these 5 acres behind our home for an apartment community, we were disappointed, to say the least. I feel that it's the last thing our neighborhood needs. There are currently over 700 apartments being built right down the street at 250 in Atlantic with a 40,000 square foot retail component. And while not in Penfield, there's a proposal down on 441 on Fellows Road to be developed into 200 more houses, a building of houses, apartments, and condos. And there's another phase going on right now of a senior living apartment near the Y. And I don't need to stand here and tell you about the traffic problems on 441. We know that accidents at 441 and Willow Pond happen weekly. Spend a few minutes there, watch how many drivers run the red light. And we know crashes at 441 and 250 happen daily. I've always wondered why the speed limit on 441 goes from 35 to 40 when you pass the light at Wegmans. It feels like when you enter a business district, it should slow down. I know it doesn't really matter what the speed limit is because everyone on 441 goes 45 to 50 miles an hour at minimum. As I said in the beginning, I'm not against development. When I learned the land was sold, I was hoping for the addition of single-family homes, patio homes or condos, something people could buy and build equity in, where they become like invested members of communities, similar to what's happening in Perrington over on Baird Road by Midvale, a smaller version of that. That kind of development would make sense here if it has to be developed. Saying that the plans have been scaled back from what was proposed in 2002 is not a fair comparison, because plans from 20 years ago cannot apply to what situation we're experiencing today. For my neighbors and I contesting this project, it feels like a losing battle. After sharing plans to our neighborhood Facebook page, we're told, good luck. The town doesn't care about you and your families. It's all about money. Greed is at work here. Penfield does what Penfield wants to do. Taking on the town will be a full-time job and you'll still lose. I am hoping that that is not the case here today. Out of a couple hundred comments, 2 were in support of this development. It's worth noting, none of them live in our neighborhood. If you proceed with this project, my neighbors and I are asking that you require additional meetings to discuss modifications and adjustments to the plans and to seriously address the speed and traffic control issues. I understand we've talked about speed bumps. The reason I was denied speed bumps in the past is, and I understand what they're saying, is that people slow down, go over them, and speed up again. I don't know that speed bumps are the answer. There has to be an answer, though. The 6 families who homes back up to this project would like specific modifications and considerations to ensure our privacy and our living aesthetics are maintained. I'm speaking today not only for my family, but I think I can safely say I'm speaking for the 15 families who live between Sanders Farm and this proposed project. In those 15 houses, there's retired seniors, working couples, and families of a combined 13 children. 13 children in this small stretch of land, like small stretch of street, very small stretch. They range from high school to middle school to elementary, preschool, even younger. I think my 2-year-old is the youngest. Some have lived here for a couple of weeks, a couple of years, and some are the original homeowners. We are trusting that you take this feedback into strong consideration and do the right thing for our neighborhood. I do have a list of some of our proposed modifications and adjustments. I can email those to the Planning Committee after this meeting, along with my remarks. I did have a couple questions. First, what is a modification of a PD? Does that mean modifying the original 2002 proposal? Is that what that means?
It would, yes and no. It would really mean modifying the most recent, which was the assisted living
And that was
approval,
2002.
2002.
Okay. And a PD district is a planned development district?
Correct.
Okay. Am I allowed to ask questions of the developers? I just have a couple, like nothing.
If you could ask them to
you
us,
guys-
and
okay, so my
we can try,
question
we
would be-
can't promise that they'll address
Sure.
them right now,
So
but
we have, like, looking at the plans, like, they talked about 20 feet of existing green space. So from my property line, 20 feet past would be what is currently there. Then they would be putting fencing up along the whole, everybody's backyard? Or would there be then their greenery and then fencing? I'm just curious, like, what that looks like.
I actually am curious about that answer myself.
So, hello? So, this is the concept stage, the sketch plan stage. It's interesting. This is not the first public meeting I've had where we're building something like this with people whose yards back up. And I'll tell you, now that they're built, those people are big fans of Mark IV. Well, we're out there with bulldozers and excavators. You know, Steve DiMarzo is out there, and he says, well, what kind of fence do you want? I suggested the fence because I thought it might assure the neighbors that we're putting some buffering there. If you don't want the fence, we don't have to do
No,
a
I
fence.
actually, I'm one of the few that do have a fence, but obviously it would probably mean mine being replaced to keep it consistent, but.
Yeah,
just-
and
Which I guess.
those are details that if it gets
Yeah.
to that,
And that's fine. I mean, that's important for the stretch of neighbors who live, you know, who are
Yeah.
significantly backing up to this project, who don't have as much green as I do in my
Yeah,
backyard.
for the people who, you know, are adjacent neighbors, we don't want to put something there that's on a plan just because it's on a plan and you don't want it there. So we'll sit down with you and figure out the specifics of it,
And then,
2 years from now.
I
when
know
we're
we've
going to
already
build.
addressed parking lot lighting is a huge concern. I mean, I mean, it's obviously woods behind my house right now. I don't want, I mean, we already have an adjacent building that has a fluorescent light attached to it, which is unfortunate. That is not what we would want to see.
Yeah, in today's world, really, I'm going to say virtually, I can't guarantee that all, but virtually all new commercial fixtures are LED, and virtually all of them are dimmable. So there's a lot more controls available to dim things down, potentially put motion sensors on them so that at night they dim down. So there's a measure of safety. Maybe a car comes up, the lights go brighter because of the cars there, that type of thing. So it's a lot easier to do that today than it was 15 years ago
And I'm
because the
assuming
sources.
glare angles can be facing toward the
Yeah,
project
and
now.
that's another thing that LED technology has, is that you have better beam control of the sources.
When we talk about the retention pond, obviously concerns are kids in the neighborhood. We have the Willow Pond, which, you know, I'm glad that I don't back up to because I don't have to worry about my children ending up in there. What goes around the pond specifically to keep people out of it?
Generally, that's, landscape buffer. Newer ponds, as we sort of discussed earlier, have a shallower entry so that it's harder. You go into some of these older facilities that were built a long time ago, and, they have steep sides. And the newer ones are not really like that. And there's a lot of, and again, you can jump in or you can jump in, or you, if I say something that's not true, because I'm not trying to do that. But the state has a lot of regulations on exactly how those things have to be done, and there's not a lot of wiggle room.
So is this circulated water, so it's not standing water that's going to cause issues with smell or bugs or mosquitoes, that type of thing?
That's another thing that, over time, the way that water is managed with biological filters and plant material and wildlife, that it, systems are getting better as time goes on in terms of, okay, what people know about how to create an ecosystem that way.
I just want to, there was issues with the Willow Pond over the summer, or not over the summer, at the beginning, and sometime in spring, with awful smells coming from that, with the property backing up to it. So I just don't want to have another similar situation with
Sure.
having that. So I wanted to go on record with that. We talked about the sidewalks, and we've talked about how dangerous it is. When you're looking at that stretch of Willow Pond, the way it curves, it seems that there should be a discussion about sidewalks continuing. Initially in phase one, and this isn't really the development, this is more on the town, to continue sidewalks from that project to connect it to the sidewalk that was recently put in within the last couple of years at Sanders Farm. We kind of joke there's sidewalks to nowhere, but that is such a curvy spot. My son rides his bike in the gutter. It's kind of sad. He's not allowed to ride up to the curve because it's too dangerous.
So, and again, I'm going to say that what I'm about to say is I have probably 85% confidence in knowing what I'm talking about. And then if some of the staff corrects me, I'll take that. But there's a sidewalk plan, overall master plan for the town. And Yeah, if you remember part of the conversation, but any new development that goes in, you're required to have sidewalks on both sides of the street unless you get a waiver from the town board. If you get the waiver from the town board, then you're giving money into the sidewalk fund, which goes to build sidewalks according to the overall sidewalk master plan. And so there are, obviously, we can't build every sidewalk that everybody wants all at the same time. So the town has a list of, priorities as to where they go and when. And while there may be a priority that, hey, you know what, we really want to get a sidewalk on this stretch of road, they don't necessarily have the easements to be able to do that. So all of us see, sidewalks that go to nowhere, and that where that ends might be a homeowner that just says, you know what, I don't want a sidewalk. I don't care what you do. I don't care if the rest of the town wants a sidewalk in front of my property. You're not putting a sidewalk there.
I thought the town owns the property. That's what I was told by the surveyor who came out a few weeks ago. He thanked me for taking care of my land on behalf of the town.
That's where there is a right-of-way.
He actually showed me where my property ended and that what's the town.
He probably talked about a right-of-way.
I don't know. He just showed me. He goes, yeah, it goes right here. It's nice. He goes, that you take care of all this for the town. I said, can you have them come cut my tree because it's too big? But he showed me where my property line technically ended and where the town's property. Either way, moot point. Right now, that's not the issue. I think the issue is that, like, from what you're hearing from the majority of us so far, is that, this development is, either good or a bad reason why, but we're coming to tell you that we have a significant issue in our neighborhood, and I've been coming to you for over 10 years, not you specifically, but with these same issues about speed, about traffic, about danger. Like, we moved here, we had kids here, they should be able to, it's a lovely neighborhood. Not only can we not move because there's nowhere to go in Penfield, but we love our neighbors. We have a great neighborhood. It's not development that I'm against, but it's the right kind of development, and it's also the town obviously will be profiting off this kind of development, but take a little bit into consideration the people who have lived here, a couple weeks, a couple years, their whole life, who are telling you that we have a problem. There's hundreds of people in this community that are telling you we have a problem, and we're here representing them. Right. I'm not sure, I feel bad, I don't want it to come off onto them because we have bigger issues than this, but
Sure.
If this is a way to get it fixed and get somebody to finally listen after so long, and if modifications can be made where I know myself and the neighbors in that stretch from Sanders Farm to the end can have actual considerations and modifications made and actually have people listen to us, then I'm not against having some apartments. As long, everyone's like the not in my backyard mentality. That's not what I'm saying. I knew when I moved here there was always that potential, and we've been really lucky for 18 years, but it has to be the right thing. And I think the town, we deserve to have, our voices heard and have some changes made and some things, because we've been here a really long time. So.
Yes, and that's what this forum is about.
And also, when we talk about the market rate apartments and we're talking about the cost is going to be more than my mortgage, which I completely understand, what prevents that from changing? So let's say in a couple years, something happens to the housing market and they decide, okay, we don't have enough people to rent there. We're going to make them low-income apartments or below market rate apartments or something like that.
I can take.
That's a very interesting question, and I'm not even sure I can legally ask that question.
I can legally answer it, though. If you want to just look off, just, no. So the answer is our financing. We borrow money to build these, and our banks won't let us do that. They're not built to be affordable or low-income housing. They're built to be high-end, market rate apartments. They're going to have balconies. They're going to use higher-end materials. in Penfield. I think, I don't know how long I could give you, my best guess guarantee, but it'd be 50 years before anybody would even consider your scenario. And I just don't see it happening, and at least for the next 50 years. You're locked up with financing that won't let you do that.
We've heard Mark Ford tell us that this was forever wildland for decades and lied to us, so I wouldn't really put my faith in
Okay. We
Wow.
need to keep this, yeah, please only speak if you're
It doesn't even
called up.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess, that's really, all I have to say about this, but,
Okay.
like I said, I would appreciate the opportunity to have, especially the residents who back up to this property, the opportunity to have another informal discussion before it gets moved to the next stage, just so we can feel a little bit more comfortable. People who I've talked to who live on Penfield Road had questions. I know it does come down a little bit from this road sight line, and it is going to be buffered from them, so they probably won't see as much as we will, but just some considerations taken into place, and then also let us know what we should be doing. If it's not here, what should we be doing to address the other issues that we're talking about in our neighborhood, on 441, out on 250, all of that, because this project will significantly impact that. But even if this doesn't happen, it's still an ongoing problem. So
Yeah, I mean, honestly, what I've heard tonight so far is a common, everybody that's gotten up has talked about traffic and the speed of cars and safety in the neighborhood, and that, it's, must be attracting flies today, right?
But I guess my concern is from what I was told when I met with the planning board, or the transportation department 10 years ago, what our problem was renters. And our problem was people who didn't have children and younger people. So we're going to be looking at bringing more of that into the neighborhood, which would be the concern for the development and the property altogether. So I would love to know where we go from here from that
Yeah, you
aspect.
want the pride of ownership, essentially.
Right.
Okay?
That's it. Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much.
Okay, next person, Lindsay. Come on up. Principi?
Okay.
Principe? Close.
Close. Can everybody hear me? Okay. All right, my name is Lindsay Principe. I live at 53 Willow Pond Way, which is one of the properties that backs up directly to the proposed project. Our neighborhood has been a wonderful place to call home for the last 10 years. It is filled with a mix of families with young and school-aged children, young professionals, and retired folks. Our streets are constantly filled with people walking their dogs, children on bikes and scooters, walkers, runners, and our friends at the former Legacy, Addison, across the street. My main concern with the proposed new development is the increase in traffic throughout the neighborhood, primarily in front of our home. With the possibility of 160-plus cars adding to the already busy streets, I'm concerned with the safety not only of my family, but everyone else as well. Cars speeding through our neighborhood are already an issue, and with more cars being added to the flow, I'm concerned it will only get worse. As Wendy mentioned, my son was nearly hit by a car earlier this year when crossing in front of the school bus due to an inattentive driver. If not for his bus driver, he would have been hit by that car. More traffic is going to make this an even greater danger. I urge the town board to carefully consider the impact of this project on our neighborhood. And I also have a statement from my husband, Arthur, also lives at Willow Pond Way. He's unable to be here tonight, but asks that I read this on his behalf. I understand and respect the property owner's desire to develop the space in a way that is most profitable to them. There are some points and issues that I would like the town to consider when approving the scale of the project and the requirements on the developer. Single-point access for 84 apartments on Willow Pond Way. As far as I can tell from the plans, the easement at 47 Willow Pond is the only access point in the proposed project. This will greatly increase the car traffic at the blind curve on Willow Pond. My driveway is directly on this curve. Foot traffic along the road and school bus stops are already a point of contention in the neighborhood. Please consider requiring additional access points or additional traffic control measures along the road for the safety of people walking and for emergency vehicles that may need to access the apartments. Flooding on the property line. The area between the proposed property and my house are some of the lowest in the area, and we already get standing water during periods of rain. I'm concerned the proposed retention pond will not be sufficient when removing so much green space, and the runoff from the parking area will cause damage to structures at the north end of our properties. I would like some assurance that the water mitigation plans are adequate for the proposed build. Line of sight from proposed parking. I'm unable to determine from the plan how much lighting would be placed in the parking area. As parking goes right up to the property line, 2 of our second-story bedroom windows will be exposed to car headlights and any floodlights placed at the apartments. Extending the proposed privacy fencing behind my property may help with the car lights, but can anything be done about street or parking lights regarding the design? The proposed building is 3 stories. While I understand the desire to maximize the use of space, there are no other 3-story buildings, apartments, homes, or businesses within the entire Willow Pond neighborhood. A redesign to 2 stories would better fit with the precedent of the neighboring buildings. It would reduce the number of units being able to be built. However, this change would address the traffic concern, the light concern, and reduce the strain on our school system with the addition of so many apartments. Thank you for the time for us to address our feedback.
Thank you. Okay. I don't have any more of these. Would anyone else? Yes, sir. Come on up. Good, thanks.
My name's Kari Paradise. I live at 15 Carib Court. I just have a couple concerns. So one is if you,
Oh,
sorry about that.
yeah, talking to the microphone.
If you take away the area that was wild and you put in this development, we live at the other wild area that is right next to the retirement home or the assisted living. So at any given morning when I come outside, there is a zoo outside my house. So my concern is you displace all of this wildlife, deer, fox, etc. They're going to be forced to move to basically my backyard. That's a huge concern as we have little dogs. So now there's raptors, big birds, that are looking for rabbits and things like that. That becomes a bigger concern with our pets. Secondarily, when we first moved to the area 15 years ago, I drove a little bit faster than I should through the neighborhood.
So you're the guy.
One of the guys. But getting to know the neighbors, seeing so many kids, people walking dogs, you kind of learn the neighborhood. Now I got to turn in, I have to be a little bit slower. Particularly when I come home, even as a 50-year-old man, I get nervous turning in Sanders Farm because people behind you are going so fast, I have to go up to the light, which has a lane that goes off to the side. So now I don't have as much a concern of being rear-ended. What they should propose is that same type of lane for you to enter into this development. So it'd be one way in. They moved that development back 30 feet. You take that lane, and now you can enter one way into the development and then exit out on the rear side. That will be a much greater control of traffic. Secondarily, the retention pond, I think, would be a spot for deer to kind of hang out. So early in the morning when you were leaving and there's the mist and it's dark with no lights, that's going to be another area of contention to run into wildlife because they're kind of hanging out there in the bushes and such waiting, and then they'll just jump out and you have no control. The last concern would be, I don't want to, I don't like the term dinks, but if you have younger folk without children, safety has been a huge issue. Theft, people going through cars, things of that nature. Even though it's a high-end living facility, there are going to be elements that they have visitors, people coming in. So the younger folks are targeting nicer cars, all of these different things. We've just gotten over a rash of burglaries 2 months ago. So how do they control their parking lot area? Is there security? Is there somebody watching over your development 24/7?
It's a good question, and it's a concern of ours as well. We own Willow Pond, we currently own Willow Pond Apartments on the other side of the neighborhood. Our security team that was on patrol worked with the sheriff's office and at least one of the groups that was breaking in and stealing the Kias and the Hyundais. We helped them stop that group. I think there's probably more than one operating in our neighborhood here, but we have security patrols on contract that visit all of our properties. Is the answer to that. Is it a perfect solution? No, everyone's cars keep getting broken into everywhere. But, you know, we try to prevent that for our tenants.
Okay. Those were my general concerns.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, ma'am, you haven't spoken yet?
Had a lot of thoughts, though. My name's Janelle James. I live at 139 Willow Pond Way, which is around the bend of Willow Pond, not the small space, not small space, but the space between the proposed building and Sanders Farm. I actually live directly across from their other property, Willow Pond Apartments. So I just had a question when you mentioned security that they've been monitoring. I've never seen security, so I was just wondering, are they sheriffs or?
Maybe they're undercover.
Oh, look at that. Well, I just wanted to put that out there that I haven't seen that. But I also wanted to say that, you know, a lot of people have referenced the small children that have been riding bikes and scooters. I have two 10-year-old boys who just learned how to ride, and they've had a couple close calls with some drivers. And I just wanted to point out again, it's not just that space, it's the entire Willow Pond loop. And adding more apartments in the neighborhood is going to be very difficult, and I'm worried someone is going to get killed, and I certainly don't want it to be my child or anybody else. Drivers coming out of the Willow Pond Apartments right now don't pay attention to anything. Just yesterday, I was standing in my front yard talking to my next-door neighbor about this meeting, and I watched someone plow out of the parking lot around an Ontario school bus and around a small, like, Ford SUV, and go down the street very fast. It's just, something needs to be done, and I know this might not be the exact place that we need to get this done, but I want to make sure that all of our voices are on the record for this, and I know someone else asked, what can we do? What other board can we go to? So if you could help direct us in that way, we would really appreciate it, because we don't want anyone to get hurt.
Well, the town board will be the next board that sees this, I guess. And they're also probably the more pertinent board to potentially address ongoing concerns in a larger context. You know, this is, like we said, we haven't had an application in 22 years, and so this board, this neighborhood never comes up. So, you know.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I've
don't know
a couple times the
what
last
you don't
couple
know,
years,
so.
I've made my voice very known about the traffic, so it's something that needs to happen. I do just want to address the traffic study that you're going to do. I welcome your person to sit on my front porch for any amount of time to just take a look. I'm not trying to be sarcastic or trying to be rude. Truly, like, it's one thing looking at something on paper, and it's one thing, you know, proposing an idea, but when you actually see it and you actually see the lives that are in danger, it makes a difference. So I mean that, truly.
Yeah, our traffic studies, they're live people counting vehicles on the boots on the ground. But I think you do, it sounds like the traffic is a problem here, or a concern here, and maybe a traffic study can help recommend some mitigation.
Yeah, and to that point, so when a traffic study is done, typically there's somebody that's hanging out in a car.
I'm assuming.
That's like clicking and counting cars. And we have had situations where someone's trying to do a traffic study and neighbors call the cops on them because they think there's some, pedophile or something. So just, if you see something like that, don't automatically assume it's a pedophile. It could be trying to gather data to help.
Right, right.
Just putting that out there.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I got a good view of everything right there. All right.
So thank you very much for your comments. Okay. Couple other, yes, sir.
Hello, can you all hear me? Yes. Okay, I'm taking this from a different perspective.
Name, address.
Michael, do you need my last name?
Yes.
Megason, M-E, 2 G's as in George, I-S-O-N. I live at 17 Courtshire Lane, which is pretty close to where this issue is going on. I have a job at Xerox and the one in Phillips, and they asked me, when do you want to start? And I said, what's the earliest I can do it without being a night shift? And they said 6:30. I choose that specifically because
you avoid traffic.
To avoid the traffic. It's been bad. And if you have not noticed that they had mentioned that the ubiquitous dinks or whatever are going to be the major people living there, having been a young person not too long ago, I want to tell you, now that Fairport is becoming the new downtown Rochester, with all the entertainment district, the bars and everything like that, I'm thinking that they're going to use this area to shortcut around and under various stages of intoxication, I'm thinking, and that doesn't sound very safe to me. And already I have to navigate on Devonshire because people park on two sides. Couple that with a UPS truck, a post office truck, and I'm going one way, another car's going the other way, with no wiggle room to go around. It becomes either a Clint Eastwood standoff, like the good, the bad, and the ugly, or a collision if it's at a certain point in the corner. Now, with the increased traffic, knowing young people, especially around football season, there's going to be cars everywhere. They want to bring their buds and their bros out, and they're going to go to somebody's home. There's going to be cars everywhere. Noise, intoxication, the little war whoops that they do when they're cheering. And to me, like I said, I was a young guy once too. And I'm doing this from a different perspective. I'm single, and if anybody objects, sign me up to eHarmony if you want. But I am a guy that just keeps to myself. I go to work. I travel all the time, so I'm never at home. So it's not that I'm not neighborly. I'm not around enough to be neighborly. But work is a very important thing for me. It keeps my income, you know what I mean? So I need to have that time where I can just get to work, get back, and not worry about having, during my downtime, tons of cars everywhere, noise levels that are unbearable, and having people walk, because I live where there's the tennis court area. I can imagine that being used as a footpath around and stuff like that. So it's just an intolerable situation. By the way, with Wegmans, there's a footpath that I use that's, you can go around, so I don't even have to go during the midday to get anything when I'm back from work because of the traffic situation. So I'm just putting this as a perspective of a guy that has been there, and when I'm single and free and stuff, and or with the whatever hookup you have, it's got to be just a lot of noise and a lot of what I just don't need after a long day at work. That's just what I'm saying.
Okay, thank you. Okay, yes, ma'am. And if we could, the traffic conversation, the messages come through loud and clear. So we do have 2 more hearings after this one. So if we could talk about something other than traffic, that would be much appreciated.
My name is Chris Tarantino. I live on 26 Sanders Farm Drive, which is the first house on the left if you're turning from Penfield Road, behind that office building. And I would like to respectfully request that each of you planning board members take a physical look at this wedge of land that they want to build all those units on. Can that happen?
Yeah, I would say that probably all of us have been there.
Okay. Just, I mean, it's one thing to see something on a sketch and to see the physical land, that it's only a little wedge of land to put 84 units on. If you try to picture that, that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments about this? Yes. You got to come back up. You do. Remember, there's thousands, hundreds, millions of people watching around the planet.
That's fine.
And
I just-
they can't hear you when you're back there.
Okay, well, I just wanted to say, I forgot to add that 441 and 250, I believe, and all the police officers watching this could probably back me up, I think it's the second most dangerous intersection in Monroe County. So I'd like you to keep that in consideration, because with the traffic and our proximity to where we live, no exaggeration, I highly encourage you to reach out to Monroe County Sheriff Department about that.
I will. Thank you. Sure.
So the traffic. The point is, you can't put 160, 180 parking spots, 180 cars. That's everyone's point with the traffic. You're adding to the problem. There is a problem, but it's going to be much, much, much worse. Everybody on New Wickham, everybody on Devonshire feels the same way. Everybody throughout the whole, again, I spoke to 41 people, and not one person was supportive of this. Everybody was very much opposed. So that's the feedback you'll get. And again, the wildlife issue. I mean, there's red-headed woodpeckers, peckers, marshland, I mean, tons and tons of wildland. And we were all told by Mark Force, some other residents mentioned this, they had the plans from way back when, that this is forever wild. You say that wasn't true. I don't have the, but, I mean, we're all told this, all right? So, anyways, I mean, why don't you make a park out of it, like you guys did at Shadow Lake and Shadow Pines? I mean, anyways, have a nice day.
Thank you. Sure.
We have had in the past several water main breaks in Willow Pond. And I'm worried about our development is 50 years old. And they have had water main breaks on Willow Pond. And I'm worried about the infrastructure going down and being so old, what that's going to do to the rest of the,
Right, will it stress the
stress on
existing infrastructure?
yeah. That's my main concern. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is anyone else? Sure.
I just would request that the traffic study be done in the fall when people's travel habits are normal, because when we got our traffic study done with issues we were having years ago, they did it in the summer when everyone's on vacation,
no
which
school,
is not an
no-
accurate representation. And gosh, while you're here, can you replace that really ugly Willow Pond sign at the, I mean, my God, that thing is older than I am. And I'm sorry, like, it's not really, I'm sorry, it's not representative of our neighborhood. It's very like 70s and really ugly. So if you can throw that into the project, we'd appreciate that too.
I just give you my phone? Yeah, if we can build this, we're gonna replace that sign, because it said we'd be working with the town, but we don't own that sign, but when construction comes around, I think that sign would probably get replaced, because it's not the best looking sign. Okay, any other comments on this? Doesn't look like we have any calls in, and this flies drive me crazy. We have had some electronic submissions over the last few days, which are being added to the record. And very much appreciate all of your input and all of your time. This is exactly what this meeting is for, and appreciate it very much. We'll definitely take it into consideration. And the next step is most likely, the planning board will issue a letter with concerns and comments, and then it's up to the applicant to pursue the next step, and most likely similar type meeting with the town board.
If I could, just in conclusion.
Sure.
We appreciate all the comments. We are going to proceed. The comments here are, quite frankly, I didn't know how fast people were going. I think we've got a traffic problem on Willow Pond Way. We're looking forward to working with our traffic engineers and the town to hopefully solve that. You know, my first instinct is let's put speed bumps every 50 feet, but then you can't plow it. But traffic engineers come up with ways that make things better. And I think if that problem's solved, and all the concerns raised tonight, I'm confident that we can address with technical, engineering, architectural solutions. I'm confident. We do this every day. I'm confident that we can convince this board, the town board, and hopefully you, our neighbors, that this isn't going to ruin your lives. The guy who called me a liar said, I fought the legacy development, but now it's a beautiful addition to the neighborhood. It's a good neighbor. We're good neighbors, I promise. And we're looking forward to working with you, our neighbors, to get this done and get it done right and get it done in a way that doesn't ruin your lives. This is going to be something you don't hate, I promise, and we'll prove it to you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. Again, thank you everyone else. And we have 2 more hearings, so if those of you who don't want to stay, if you could proceed to the exits quickly and quietly, that would be very much appreciated. And thank you. Have a great rest of your night and weekend. Okay. Doug, would you read the second application that we have this evening?
We give it just a second to quiet down.
Yeah, we can give 30 seconds or so to...
Okay. Application number 2, Land Tech Surveying and Planning, PLLC, 1105 Ridgeway Avenue, Rochester, New York, 14615. On behalf of Louis J. Sirianni, requests under Chapter 250, Article 11-11.2, and Article 12-12.2 of the Code of the Town of Penfield for preliminary and final subdivision and site plan approval for a 2-lot subdivision and the development of single-family residential homes on a 5.85-acre parcel at 978 State Road. The property is now or formerly owned by Louis J. Sirianni and zoned rural residential RR1. Application number 24P-0011, SBL 094.02-1-15.6.
Okay. Welcome.
Good evening, planning board members, officials, and citizens of Penfield. I'm John Hotto of Land Tech Surveying and Engineering in 1105 Ridgeway Avenue, Rochester. I'm here representing Mr. Louis Sirianni in the subdivision of his property at 978 State Road into 2 separate lots from an existing 5.85 acre site. The proposed lot number 1 will be approximately 1 acre, and lot 2 will be about 4.84 acres. We have gotten good indications from Monroe County Department of Transportation that what we're proposing for driveways is feasible, and we just have to go get permits from them to do those with some specific detailing for driveways and drainage and so forth. Monroe County Water Authority has also mentioned that there's enough pressure in the existing water main out there for the 2 new proposed houses. And we are also providing easements along the front of Mr. Sirianni's property, a sidewalk easement. And there's also an existing 30-foot wide easement to the north of our property. I'm sorry, to the west, existing. It's an existing easement, and we're going to be proposing to pump sanitary wastewater to an existing manhole on the north side of State Road. That existing sanitary manhole is very shallow, and to provide any kind of gravity wastewater discharge from the project, the 2 lots is not feasible without pumps either way. So we're using like individual site grinder pumps to pump the wastewater to that manhole. That's our proposal. As indicated on our environmental assessment form, that the tax parcel, no wetlands, floodplains, critical environmental areas or historic cultural significance is found on the site, including endangered species. There is one environmental issue. Site has been identified by the town of Penfield to be an EPOD, and it's a woodlot EPOD. And we did discuss with the town officials about how to approach that. And apparently the rule is for a woodlot EPOD, if you disturb or develop less than 10% of that woodlot, it's acceptable for site development. And that's what we've done. Mr. Sirianni's property, 5.85 acres, is basically the green. This is lot 1, this is lot 2. So we're minimally disturbing the woodlot, and this will not be, developed, but it'll be part of the amenity of buying that property. Heavily wooded. Unfortunately, there's a lot of ash trees on the property that are doomed. They're going to be gone soon. The front lot number 1, just has a little bit of woods. It's not really actually EPOD, but there is some woods in the backyard. But primarily the front is brush, and that's not under the EPOD regulation. Lot number 2 will be a flag lot to provide a driveway into the house.
John, can I have you speak into the microphone?
I'm sorry.
PCP
Yeah.
is having trouble picking you up.
So lot number 2 will be a flag lot, and lot number 1 will just be a conventional residential lot with frontage on State Road. Are there any questions?
Okay. Thank you for your presentation. Kelly, do you want to
Sure.
start off?
So 2 lots. When you came into 2023, what was your proposed?
That's a good point. Yes, we were initially going to acquire some land from the adjacent neighbor. They decided that they weren't prepared to sell any land. So we're just doing 2 lots on Mr. Sirianni's land that he owns in whole right now. There will be no acquisition of any other adjacent property.
So he owns where the proposed lot 1 is going and the proposed lot 2?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. With the lot 2, that house, are you going to provide any buffering up that driveway for the home that's existing to the right of it?
Well, it'll be green space. We have to provide a swale there. No drainage will be going into this adjacent neighbor. All the drainage will be going to the west, and then it will flow along the north side, the west side of the new driveway, and then cross. There's an existing little swale there, and we're going to have to put a culvert under the road. I mean, there's some room. There will be some green space there. I don't know how Mr. Sirianni feels about providing trees, but I can't even really provide evergreen trees there. It's not wide enough. So
Okay.
it could be, we could leave it, just shrubs or wild brush or something like that. I don't know.
Okay. Just trying to think of, questions that you might get from the neighbor.
Okay.
That's all I can think of right now, but I might have more in a second.
Okay, so you'd mentioned that you're proposing some, would be 2 pumps, one for each lot for the sewer?
Yes.
Okay, so then the homeowner would have control over,
Yes.
and, okay. And the initial, when you were in before, with the combined parcels, was it 6 lots that you were looking at?
Very early on,
Trying to remember.
conceptually, we were looking at 6, but the woodlot E-Pod is very constraining. We just
Right,
couldn't do it.
so you brought it down to 2.
Yeah, as a result of the regulations regarding E-Pod.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions from the board? Terry, Bob?
Mr. Sirianni's going to live in lot 2? He's going to live there?
No, he's going to sell it.
Oh, he's selling both of them?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other issues with the neighbors? So you don't own any of that property on Misty Trail or anything back there?
Excuse me?
Does Mr. Sirianni own any of these other Misty Trail properties around there at all?
Do you own any other property in the vicinity?
Misty Trail?
He doesn't own it.
Okay. Any feedback from any of the neighbors back in there?
Pardon me?
Any feedback from any of the neighbors back there on Misty Trail?
No, we
I
haven't
guess-
heard anything.
I guess we're gonna have some out there. To your left, these people raise their hands. Okay. All righty. So you don't,
Are there-
okay, I'm good
Did
right
you
now.
own any property back there? And have we gotten any feedback from neighbors?
Do you have these folks signed up?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, we'll open it up to.
Okay, well, I didn't know. Okay. I'm good then. Thank you.
Bob, questions?
Engineering have any concerns?
Yes, I'm not sure if we were able to send out the PRC memo, but we did have some concerns that I think should be responded to. So at least we have some sense of what the thoughts are from the applicant, so.
Okay.
Okay.
And for Lot 2, given the distance, I'm assuming that property, the structure would be sprinklered for fire?
I think the fire marshal believes that it's close enough, that the hydrant on State Road is close enough that it doesn't need to be sprinklered.
Okay.
But I can double check that with the fire marshal.
Okay.
Okay. All right, at this point, I'd like to open it up to the audience. And if there's anyone that would like to speak to this application, come on up and state your name and address for the record. And would love to hear your comments.
Good evening. I'm Timo Jackal, and this is my wife Jana Jackal. We live at 7 Misty Trail, which borders the property to the north of the proposed development. I think we want to start by saying thank you very much. We feel like we were heard at the last meeting and that the E-Pod land is being appropriately respected, so we're really grateful for that. We just have a couple of questions. Relative to, as it's being developed, the E-Pod properties being preserved, is there any sort of binding instrument that gets put in place to prevent the subsequent owner of the property from then clearing out those trees and shrubs?
So in our E-Pod code, homeowner, so clearing would require an E-Pod permit, and they'd have to do a plan and things like that. Selective removal of trees, either to use as firewood or removing dead, dying, or diseased, is permitted.
Okay.
Okay, and another question along that line with the dead and dying trees. Yes, there are a lot of dying determined which trees are actually dead and dying? Will an arborist determine which trees will be cut down? Or will someone just go in and take guesses at which trees are okay to cut and not cut?
That's a good question, and
Under our existing code, it's up to the determination of the homeowner. Depending on how many trees they're looking to take out, it may require an EPOD permit. If they're clearly falling over or something like that, there's usually not much more that's done.
Could I respond to that?
sure,
Okay, on my property in Victor, I have like 5 acres.
John.
And I had over like 150 ash trees, and you'll know when it's dead, because it just goes. I mean, it gradually gets weaker and weaker, and the leaves get smaller, and then boop.
Yeah, we live, back in our property, we have lots of ash trees as well. We actually have chosen to treat them so that they don't die. But I do understand there's lots of trees in the woods that are. Will there be a certain time of year that they're taken down? Because they can appear dead in the winter when they're not. And I'm just wondering if there'll be a professional who will determine.
Well, I'm a landscape architect, and I could do it immediately.
Okay.
I mean, I can flag them and whatever. yeah.
Okay, and then one last comment about the fire hydrants. So this was just sparked by what you mentioned. On Misty Trail, there's actually 3 fire hydrants down the length of Misty Trail. So I don't know if that's helpful in terms of that assessment, because those might be the closest to the home.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And the buffer along Misty Trail, will there be a buffer between the property? I think is Lot 2 the one that's farther back, the flag shape?
Yes.
Yes.
We have, our property extends down Misty Trail up to State Road. There's a strip along there. Will there be some sort of buffer between Misty Trail and the properody?
So your property goes all the way to State Road?
Yep.
You got a flag lot too?
Yeah.
There's not gonna be any official buffer, but there's no plan to disturb any of that vegetation or trees.
Okay, great.
I mean, yeah, there's no plan.
Okay, because we, multiple times a day, we walk from our house down, to State Road to the mailbox and take the dog and whatnot, and we're just concerned about the trees that are along Misty Trail as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Did you want to say something? Are you good?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
Would anyone else in the audience like to comment on this application? Let me quick check to see if there's any phone calls. Okay, we don't have any. Thank you very much. Appreciate your presentation. Comments?
Do you know how soon we'll have a determination?
Have you responded to the PRC comments yet?
We need to get those out to the applicant.
So, the project review committee, it's basically all the department heads in the town, go through applications and, might be, hey, can this manhole cover be located 6 inches to the west, and
yeah.
Stuff like that. So,
That's cool.
Yeah, there will be, yeah,
Thanks. Thanks, everybody.
thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Final application for the evening. And the folks that are still here, I'm sure we're planning on this length of an evening.
Yep. Application number 3, McMahon LaRue Associates, on behalf of Anthony Imburgia, request under Chapter 250, Article 11-11.2 and Article 12-12.2 of the Code of the Town of Penfield for preliminary and final site plan approval for the development of an 8,800 square foot office building for a physical therapy practice at 85 Sovran Drive and re-subdivision to adjust the shared boundary between 85 Sovran Drive and 1270 Creek Street. The properties are now or formerly owned by 1270 Creek Street LLC and zoned General Business GB. application 24P-0013, SBL 093.15-1-2.116.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Brian White from McMahon LaRue Associates. I'm here tonight with Sam Bergia for preliminary final approval for 85 Sovran Drive for Wellness 360. We did previously appear to the planning board on May 9th for a sketch plan, and following that, we went to the zoning board meeting on June 20th, where we obtained a few area variances, primarily for dimensional setback requirements for the building and parking requirements. We did obviously obtain those variances, and we're here tonight to address any final questions that you may have for the development. We did respond to the preliminary PRC comments already. We'd be happy to go through that as well. I also have with me your sketch plan recommendation letter to the zoning board. We have addressed all of those comments on here. I'd be happy to run through those if you'd like.
If you could, you don't have to go through every PRC comment. Most of those are typically technical in nature, but
sure,
for those folks that are here and also watching, as I mentioned, there's countless. Countless is actually a very good term to use on that. But just give an overall summary of the project again, and possibly how any modifications you've made based on the receipt of the sketch plan letter and that sort of thing.
Sure, not a problem. So we're proposing a 8,800 square foot building. The occupant for that is going to be Wellness 360, a physical therapy building. To summarize briefly, we did obtain variances for this property. The dimensional lot requirements wouldn't allow any structure to be built on this unique piece of property. We're looking to service the building with a 4-inch water service, a private water service, and also sanitary sewer. So those are both existing connections. We're proposing 33 parking spaces. 4 of those are handicap accessible. We did address, I'd like to run through the sketch plan notes here. We did bring with us samples tonight of the building, which we can present as well. You want to present those, Sam? And along with the rendering that we submitted with our application.
Okay.
So, looking at the structure, I don't know if we could put up a rendering. Do we have a rendering that we can show?
This one, right? Or no?
Yeah, those are.
Matt, can you pull up the rendering?
Okay, so in the, for the exterior, the board and batten was what was selected, similar to what you could see here. In the center, it's going to be architectural stone, again, similar to this. For the roof materials, I believe we had this along with same type of material for this and the gutters. And any of the wood components was going to be the solid type of wood structure, siding. So, any questions on any of these finishes?
The roof itself, is it like a standing seam, or what kind of roof?
Yes, standing seam.
Okay.
Any other questions?
We may have
Sure. No, that's okay.
questions.
I know there was a lot of different components, but that's basically the overview.
We'd be happy to pass those around too if anybody wants a closer look.
Okay. You don't have to.
Pending no further questions, I'll just jump on to the next comment here.
Yes.
I believe that we did prepare a revised drainage report for this project. That was comment 2. We did prepare a landscape and planting schedule plan as part of our submittal. As far as a dumpster enclosure, we're actually going to use totes. It's going to be located on the north end of the building in an enclosure adjacent to the employee parking area. This is going to be a lot line adjustment, also known as a re-subdivision, so we'll be preparing that and submitting that to the county clerk for recording. We have met our coverage requirements along with moving that line. We have included a demo plan for our coverage. So we'll be underneath the, by code is required for 65%, will be around 64 and change for our coverage for that. There was another comment in regards to the one-way access into the client parking for the facility. We have included striping parking arrows on the entrance area for that. And then the last comment on our list was...
That's on the south lot?
That's correct. Adjacent to, that's where the client parking would be, where the 4 handicap spaces are. So it would be parking striping. The last comment that we addressed was the emergency fire access on the north side. Although we don't clearly depict it on the plan, we are going to clean up that area shown here on the plan where the cursor is, the gravel area. And there's a gate with the breakaway lock on it. So that'll be cleaned up and, as a part of this project.
Okay.
Any further questions?
Bob, do you have any comments?
Yes.
Questions?
For the tote enclosure, what materials are being used for that?
They're going to be located on a concrete pad. I don't think that we've identified the exact material for the fencing, but there will be some screening around that area. If you have a preference to that, I'm sure that we would take that input.
I would think if it could incorporate possibly a material that's also used in the building.
Certainly.
That would, I guess, architecturally kind of fit in with the rest of the structure.
Okay.
Okay. It's easily attained.
And on the rendering, maybe I missed it. Where will the lighting be on the building, and has that been identified?
Yeah, we did prepare a lighting plan. That's on sheet number 8 of 11.
Okay.
Do you have fixture cuts on these?
I'm sorry?
Did you submit fixture? Oh, yeah, okay.
For the, 8 of...
On page 11?
Yep.
Those...
So we're proposing...
So the McGraw-Edison are the wall packs? I don't mean to jump in.
Oh, no, that's, I missed.
And then
missed
you
that.
have one pole-mounted fixture, and that's this D-series size 2?
That's correct.
Okay. All full cutoff, horizontal cutoff fixtures.
Yes.
Okay, so maybe you could add to the rendition where those wall packs would be on the building. I didn't see that.
So there are, on that sheet 8, there's some ISO foot candle lines. It looks like there's 4 of them. One in
okay.
each of the center, like the center of the section of the building, maybe?
Yes, yeah, I see it now.
At the roof line, how far down? Do you know the mounting height that you're looking at for those?
I don't know that, but we can get that information for you.
Okay.
Is that shown on the rendering that you had provided on the screen?
I don't see it, on the rendering, maybe. No.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was looking for it, but then, like you say, it shows it on the overall landscape lighting plan.
That'll be the physical location.
Right.
Horizontally, I'm not exactly sure on the height of those.
It's typically just about the line where the top of the window.
Okay.
You know, if you could see on the rendering, between that, like in the door, you know, typically just about in that area.
And one more question. Could you review or kind of describe the landscaping? I know there's some on the right side of the building.
Yeah, we did include a planting schedule on there.
Yeah.
Proposing some plantings on the easterly side of the building and on the southeast corner. That would be an area where traffic would be running around the curve there.
Right.
That would be the primary vegetation for this. And we're proposing for those flowering dogwood, birch leaf, switchgrass, and part of those are also in the bioretention basin.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't classify those as significant screening features, but as far as the aesthetic coming around the curve, I think that's what we were targeting to achieve for that area.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay.
Okay. Terry?
Any
any questions?
signage on the building? I'm missing it someplace.
I don't believe that there's signage at this time.
You know, the tenant was requesting that they would have a sign that was at the road. We were going to have something where Sovran Drive
Meets Creek Street?
meets Creek Street, and then also just, you know, one side probably above the entrance, the main entrance there.
And the main entrance, isn't there two?
There's a client entrance for
It's
Creek
where the double doors are, if you could show the floor plan again.
Okay, but, okay. Aren't those double doors and those double doors?
Correct.
So
One
this is the
your
main
son's.
entrance?
That is correct.
Okay. Okay. Kelly, do you have any questions?
I don't know.
All right. You guys at this
Yeah,
moment?
I'm good.
Okay. Anybody in the audience would like to talk about this application? May he come? Would you like?
He's the only one that makes jokes.
Yeah.
Bad one.
Nothing would surprise you tonight, right?
Yeah. Okay, nobody's on the phone. I don't see any electronic submissions. We will review this. We may have more questions. We'll put them in writing. It'll be tabled tonight. But nothing here, at least, appears on the surface to be crazy. So appreciate the presentation very much and your patience this evening.
And then following this meeting, what would be the next step for us? For the-
Well, so I'm not, did we get has Bruce looked at this from a landscaping plan? Do we have anything back from him?
We have not sent it to Bruce. If that is something the board would like, we could send it to Bruce for his review of the landscaping.
Probably a good idea. Did we talk at Sketch about, we did, and we decided against the necessity for Chris?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I just might want to add, if we could, we were kind of expecting a vote this evening. Is there something that's preventing you from?
Well,
Other than a long night?
there are, we will from time to time approve very simple subdivisions, a two-lot sub, that kind of thing on the same night. An application like this, while it's not, we just generally will table it and address it at the next meeting, assuming that all the agency comments have been addressed and those sorts of things. So that's been our policy for as long as I've been on this board, and that's probably, some might argue, too long. About 27 years. So it's generally how we do it. Is there some?
In the intervening time, we'll typically complete seeker, and the board will draft a resolution with conditions for review at its following meeting.
Yeah, so I could see if there's no outstanding issues. Our next meeting is August 8th, so it would probably be approved at the work session between 6:30 and 7 on August 8th.
Okay. Thank you.
All right? Okay. Well, thank you, everyone, for coming this evening, and we will call this hearing closed. So, recapping application number 1, the sketch. If we can get a sketch letter
started,
begun.
Yep.
Obviously, traffic concerns are. Thank you. I'd like to find out, if we can, about this claim of the 250-441 intersection. See if that's true. Be interesting to know. The traffic concerns, everyone seemed to bring up traffic concerns. Sidewalk possibility, not sure where that falls on the realm of, on the plans, and what hoops need to be jumped through to create them in that space. My guess is.
I believe there's some proposed for there now, right, on the west side of?
Well, on Willow Pond Way, the straight road down, we are currently going to probably start construction in late August, September, of extending that to the south.
Okay.
On the west side of Willow Pond.
Okay, that'd be helpful. All right.
What about speed
but-
bumps?
Yeah, we potentially look into speed bumps and maybe encourage everyone to contact the Transportation Committee. Are there hearings, are there meetings public?
Yes, they are public hearings. Generally, you have to request to be at the Transportation Committee. They meet once a month. I believe it's next Tuesday, so their agenda's probably already set, so it'd have to be
Yeah, the following
August committee. I think they meet in August, but yes, I would contact the engineering department, and they can get you on the next available meeting.
Okay. Any other comments quickly that everybody remembers right now? Do we want to start in with a sketch letter? Okay, so can somebody maybe make a motion to begin the drafting of a sketch letter?
Sure. I'll make the motion that we
begin drafting.
begin the sketch letter
Okay.
on the project.
I'll second.
Kanauer, Aken. Hetzke.
Hetzke, aye.
Aken.
Aken, aye.
Kanauer.
Kanauer, aye.
Tydings.
Tydings, aye.
Okay, application number 2, the Sirianni subdivision. We're waiting on responses to comments,
Correct.
right? Okay. So somebody want to, it's yours, right? Do you want a table?
Yeah, so just say a motion to table.
Yep, I'll second.
All right. Aken, Kanauer. Hetzke,
Hetzke, aye.
Aken,
Aken, aye.
Kanauer,
Kanauer, aye.
Tydings.
Tydings, aye.
All right. The 85 Sovran Drive, same thing, waiting on responses to comments.
You are correct.
And we'll send it out to Bruce for his input on the landscaping.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's
Yeah,
get, let's
I
get.
think that bio, whatever, that should probably be reviewed and looked at too, you know, from a landscape
Yeah.
architecture point of view.
Okay. Good.
So I will make the motion to table.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it. Tydings.
Kanauer, Tydings. Hetzke,
Hetzke, aye.
Aken,
Aken, aye.
Kanauer,
Kanauer, aye.
Tydings.
Tydings, aye.
All right. Anything else we need to discuss this evening?
That's all I've got.
Okay. We will adjourn. Thanks, everyone, for coming, and we will see you next month.